Only one or two things in this world beat the thrill of watching top athletes at the peak of their form. But what if, instead of running for their next paycheck, our athletes had to run for their lives? That's how it is in the animal world. If they could compete in the Olympics, animal athletes would turn our superstars into bench warmers. So what secrets make them such natural-born winners? The fastest human sprinter can cover 100 meters in less than 10 seconds at a top speed of 27 miles per hour. In the Animal Olympics, that wouldn't even qualify. Animal sprinters come in all shapes and sizes. One, like us, gets around on 2 legs. The ostrich has plenty to run away from. Its predators, big cats, African wild dogs, and hyenas, are among the world's fastest animals, and though the ostrich is a bird, it can't fly out of trouble. In fact, the ostrich is the biggest bird in the world. That's an important advantage. A 9-foot-tall adult ostrich can spot danger before it gets too close. When predators approach, the ostrich is built to move. With its uniquely adapted feet and long, powerful legs, it can hit 35 miles per hour. The ostrich's leg muscle is packed in close to the body to keep the legs lightweight, so they can swing back and forth easily. But it's the feet that really make the difference. The ostrich's feet have only 2 toes. The long one in front acts like the spike of a running shoe digging into the ground on each stride. Tightly packed ridges on the underside of the foot increase the grip. And a thick layer of fatty tissue acts like a shock absorber. The sprinting ostrich can comfortably outrun all its enemies on the plains, except one. The cheetah. The cheetah is the fastest animal on land. If it entered the Olympic 100 meters, the record would drop to less than 4 seconds. At 60 miles an hour or better, the cheetah seems to fly. More Top Gun than Top Cat. Lean and streamlined, the cheetah is built for speed. It has long, muscular legs, razor-sharp claws like running spikes, and pads like tire treads on its feet. Its high, powerful shoulders have been specially re-engineered by evolution to swivel more freely, increasing the length of the stride. And the longer each stride, the more ground the cheetah can cover. It's a huge advantage, and it works even better for the cheetah because of its ideally adapted backbone. It's a marvel of design. The flexible spine enables the cheetah to fling its legs out to their fullest extent. As the cheetah runs, the backbone bows like a giant spring, compressing and releasing energy with every stride. As the rear legs reach forward, they overtake the front. Then the backbone unbends, throwing the long front legs forward into another immense stride. In fact, the average length of each stride at top speed is a colossal 23 feet. The cheetah can accelerate from 0 to 45 miles an hour in just 2.5 seconds. The rough terrain makes this pace even more incredible. The cheetah has to compensate for holes, stones, bushes, dust, and prey desperately zigzagging for its life. The cheetah's long, heavy tail helps to counterbalance the twists and turns of the chase. There is still hope for the prey. Cheetahs can only maintain top speed for about 400 yards before they begin to overheat. Even for the cheetah, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Not if the lunch can help it. Another species with an amazing accelerator is the horse. It packs so much speed into its first few strides that from a standing start, it can even beat a race car. The secret is in the powerful hindquarters, solid muscle propelling the horse forward like a tight spring. But the horse can also keep running, because it has evolved a mechanism to double its supply of oxygen-carrying red blood cells on demand. Tough hooves help maintain speed over varied ground. On every stride, the front of the hoof cuts into the ground for better traction. Stamina can be just as important as a good sprint, and some animals specialize in long-distance running. On the African plains, the wild dog relies on teamwork and staying power to wear down its prey. Wild dogs can't outrun a wildebeest over the short haul, but they stick with the herd until their opportunity comes. Unlike the cheetah, hunting dogs regulate their body temperature while running. They do it well enough to follow a herd for more than 30 miles in a day. Then, like a marathon runner with a sprint in reserve, they can manage a final 35-mile-an-hour burst for the kill. The wildebeests are accomplished long-distance runners themselves, but soon the herd shows signs of tiring, and the predators move in. So how do wild dogs manage to keep cool despite their fur coats and the 100-degree heat? Part of the secret is their big ears, which are laced with tiny blood vessels. As blood circulates close to the surface, it dumps heat to the surrounding air, cooling the dog. But there's an animal with an even more formidable combination of marathon stamina and sprinting speed. The American pronghorn antelope has a reputation for being elusive, a ghost-like presence on the prairies of the western United States. Herds of pronghorn can maintain a 45-mile-an-hour pace over great distances, with sprinting bursts of almost 60 miles per hour. At that speed, the pronghorn could give a human athlete an 18-mile head start in an Olympic marathon and still win. This makes daunting physical demands on the pronghorn's body. Its muscles need to be stoked like a furnace with enormous supplies of oxygen. The pronghorn is specially adapted to meet this demand. As it starts to run, the pronghorn's mouth gapes open, sucking in great gasps of air. To handle this intake, its trachea is as wide as a wildebeest's, an animal 3 times its size. The lungs are oversized too. The pronghorn has as much oxygen-absorbing area as a 600-pound adult male gorilla. The heart, which pumps the oxygen out to the muscles, is also unusually large. What makes the pronghorn run so hard? Evolution. As predators like the wolf, the mountain lion, and the coyote become faster and fitter, prey like the pronghorn have to keep one step ahead. For an animal in the wild, athletic prowess is a matter of life and death. A human high jumper can soar about 1 body length above the ground, a little over 8 feet. By animal standards, that's pathetic. The best human high jumper is effortlessly outclassed by a spider. This jumping spider is a merciless predator. It stalks, then pounces on its startled victim. But there's more than one element of surprise in this leap. It should be physically impossible. Jumping spiders have no stretching muscles in their knee joints. They achieve their incredible leaps entirely by hydraulics. As the spider gets into position, it flexes the back half of its body with strong muscle contractions, pumping up the blood pressure in its front end. Then, when the pressure peaks, the spider releases a trigger and sends the blood shooting downward out of the body cavity like a hydraulic piston. The hollow legs fill up and snap straight under the pressure, and the spider leaps with devastating accuracy to land on its prey, which it then disables with an injection of poison. Other animals use jumping as a way to escape their predators. Frogs can leap up to 10 times their body length. For a human, that would mean a standing jump of more than 60 feet. The frog's dramatic leap is a product of sheer muscle power, not hydraulics. Its legs are encased in powerful muscles, and they are twice as long as its torso. The elongated bones are immensely strong, perfect propulsion machines. The flying frog has an extra advantage. Its webbed feet act as parachutes and extend the leap into a glide. It holds the distance record for frogs, more than 50 feet. But gliding is cheating. The African springbok antelope uses a type of high jumping called pronking to leave its predators in the dust. The springbok should be an easy meal for a cheetah, but springboks vary their pace by suddenly launching themselves into the air, leaving the cheetah confused. Each pronk can carry a springbok 10 feet above the ground and 30 feet forward. When a whole herd of springboks start pronking together, their predators don't know which way to turn. The springbok's powerful thigh muscles contract to supply the lift for takeoff. Long, elastic tendons in the legs absorb and recycle that energy for the next leap. It makes a human ballet dancer's most spectacular leap look flat-footed. The kangaroo uses jumping not to escape predators, but as a means of locomotion. At low speed, the kangaroo looks ungainly. It shuffles along on its heavy back legs like a lame rabbit. It's hard to believe that this awkward-looking animal could be one of the fastest movers on Earth. But at full speed, the clumsy shuffle vanishes, replaced by a smooth, gravity-defying motion that can drive an adult kangaroo along at 40 miles an hour. It can cover more than 26 feet in a bound. The efficiency of the gait increases as the kangaroo finds its stride. In fact, the faster the pace, the less oxygen the kangaroo uses. At high speed, the kangaroo's body is held flat, and the huge muscular tail levels out, counterbalancing the individual hops. The result is a smooth and surprisingly elegant gait. But of all the world's great leapers, the undisputed champion isn't Fido the dog. It's Fido's fleas. Insignificant little pests, just 1/16 of an inch long. Fleas are parasites. To get from the ground to a new host, they must jump about 100 times their own body length, far beyond the wildest dreams of any human high jumper. Just to make life more interesting, fleas accomplish their leap from a kneeling position. The flea's takeoff produces an acceleration rate 20 times what's needed for a rocket to escape the Earth's gravity. Muscle alone couldn't accomplish this amazing leap. Instead, the flea uses resolin, the most efficient rubber-like protein on Earth. Before a jump, the flea crouches, compressing the tiny resolin pads at the top of its rear legs. On takeoff, the resolin springs back, returning nearly 97% of its stored energy in an elastic recoil. The sudden energy release sends the flea hurtling into the air toward its next target. And if it misses, the flea can leap again, thousands of times per hour. Now, if only a flea could slam dunk. A champion human weightlifter can lift 560 pounds and hold the load overhead for a few seconds. Animals are much stronger, but they don't always look the part. The leopard is one of the most slender and elegant of the big cats, but it's also the strongest. Leopards tend to live alone, and they'll eat virtually anything, from the tiniest beetle to an antelope twice their size. As solitary hunters, they may have to wait days between major kills. When a leopard gets lucky, it naturally wants to keep the meal for itself, and the world is full of animals eager to steal it. So the leopard hides its food by caching it up a tree. Somehow it drags a carcass which may be more than twice its own weight, hundreds of yards to a suitable tree, and then hauls the enormous dead weight up into the branches. Leopards are much lighter than lions, but their jaws are just as powerful. Large shoulder muscles also help support the leopard's load. Tree climbing is no problem. The leopard's claws are like spikes, and even the pads on its feet provide extra grip. Leopards will sometimes drag their kill 45 feet above ground. It's like single-handedly hauling a dinner table to the top of a 4-story building with no staircase. But it's worth it. The leopard dines at leisure, knowing it can always return later to its rooftop larder. Unless, that is, an elephant happens to come along and rip the tree down. A full-grown bull elephant can weigh up to 7 tons, but there's more to the elephant's weightlifting prowess than sheer bulk. The elephant's extraordinary trunk is simultaneously as powerful as a backhoe and almost as delicate as human fingers. The trunk is actually an elongated nose fused to the upper lip. It functions as nose, arm, lips, and fingers all in one. An elephant can clear the landscape with its trunk. But it's also precise enough to pluck a single piece of fruit. The trunk can suck up 2.5 gallons of water at a gulp and squirt it into its mouth at a rate of 50 gallons in less than 5 minutes. The trunk also doubles as a snorkel. The combination of strength and flexibility has made the elephant's trunk a subject of endless speculation. One scientist in the 1700s suggested the trunk was made up of a single coiled muscle starting at the head and spiraling round and round down to the tip. The truth is that the trunk contains more than 100,000 individual muscles, intricately arranged without bone or cartilage. There are both radial and cross-ply muscle groups enabling the trunk to move in any rotation. Some muscle groups are for large motor tasks like lifting logs. Some are for small motor activities needing precision control. The elephant can pick up that single piece of fruit or push down a tree simply by using these different muscle groups. For real weightlifting champions, though, we should skip the elephants and look at their dung. Down there, busily cleaning the landscape, are the mightiest street sweepers on the savannah. Dung beetles construct large balls of fresh dung and bring them back to the nest as a food source for their eggs. They can move dung balls more than 10 times their own body weight, and they do it while standing on their heads. Not only is this insect Hercules powerful, it's also smart enough to cheat by rolling the dung ball. The crocodile looks more like a walking fossil than a champion athlete. In fact, it settled into its familiar shape 40 million years ago, and it hasn't needed to improve on the basic design since then. Crocodiles spend most of their time loafing around waiting, but they can rise to the occasion. That elongated body is packed with muscle wrapped around a flexible backbone. Each vertebra interlocks with the next in a line of ball and socket joints, allowing the tail to whip powerfully from side to side. This is the powerhouse that drives the crocodile. The croc can also use its stubby legs to lunge at up to 29 miles an hour, much faster than a human sprinter. Powerful jaws snap down like a trap, allowing the crocodile to drag its struggling victim underwater to be drowned. But the strength of the jaws is concentrated on biting down. Once closed, a crocodile's terrifying mouth can be held shut by little more than a piece of string. Those jaws can have other, gentler uses. Mother crocodiles precisely control the bone-crushing snap of their jaws as they round up their offspring and take them to the water, without so much as a scratch. powerful jaws are the trademark of one of the smallest animal athletes, one whose impact is out of all proportion to its size. Leafcutter ants take apart the tallest trees in the rainforest, one leaf at a time. Then they tote the leaf fragments 100 yards back to the nest. This ant can cut through stems almost half an inch thick. It's like a human biting through a giant redwood. The leafcutter ant's mandibles are like serrated knives, coated with zinc for an extra sharp edge. The ant uses them to saw through the surface of the leaf, but it's also equipped with special cutting machinery. A special organ underneath the ant's head generates the high-frequency sound waves, which are transmitted to the leaf through the mandibles. The sound waves make the leaf brittle and easier to cut. It's an ingenious feat of strength. The animal athletes all seem to have these special adaptations to make them better than we can ever hope to be at running, jumping, and carrying gargantuan weights. And that's on land, our natural environment. What if we had to compete with them in an alien medium, like water? Humans are land animals. Our ancestors left the sea millions of years ago, so we can hardly expect to return to the water as champions. Not surprisingly, the fastest swimmer on the blue planet is a fish. A sailfish surges through the water even faster than a cheetah on land. But some of the most accomplished swimmers are mammals, just like us. Dolphins have swum in the oceans of the world for at least 24 million years. They're so well adapted to life in the sea that they can easily manage speeds of 25 miles per hour, 5 times as fast as human swimmers. New research suggests that the skin plays an important role in that effortless glide through the water. Every swimming animal must overcome drag, the friction that slows an animal down. Drag is produced in part by a thin film of almost stationary water between the animal's skin and the surrounding water, called the boundary layer. It's crucial to keep the boundary layer smooth, reducing turbulence. The dolphin solves this problem by having self-smoothing skin. As turbulence occurs in the boundary layer, the dolphin's skin reacts by starting to ripple. These ripples exactly mirror the waves of turbulence in the boundary layer and cancel them out. The result is a constantly smooth boundary layer, eliminating drag that would otherwise slow the dolphin down as it slips through the sea. It's a technique champion human swimmers and submarine designers would love to duplicate. And just to make us feel even more oafish, the dolphin can also escape water resistance completely by leaping through the air. One of the most unusual and powerful swimmers is also a mammal, a large furry bear. Polar bears regularly swim in the freezing waters of the Arctic in search of food, and they can go more than 60 miles without resting. These are some of the coldest waters on Earth, cold enough to kill an unprotected human swimmer in seconds. Yet the polar bear is so well adapted that it may even overheat during a long swim. A roll in the snow is one way to cool down. The polar bear's secret is insulation. Its thick fur coat has a double layer of hairs. The outer layers clump together when wet and form a smooth, waterproof suit from head to toe. Beneath the fur coat is a thick layer of fat. It doesn't just insulate the bear, but also provides fuel reserves for the strenuous swim. A polar bear's sheer bulk is another defense against the cold. A large animal loses heat much more slowly than a small one. A polar bear must be a determined hunter to find enough food in this barren landscape. It can smell its favorite food, seals, from 20 miles away. The bear will then track its prey for hours through the world's most inhospitable waters. It makes swimming the English Channel sound like a bubble bath. At the other end of the world is an even more unusual champion swimmer. It's a bird. On land, penguins are ungainly. They can't fly. They can barely waddle around on their short legs. Yet they are one of the most successful marine species on the planet. 17 species of penguins survive in the wild in colonies of up to 5 million strong. On land, penguins would starve. There's nothing here but snow and ice. But Antarctica is surrounded by an ice-cold ocean, teeming with life. So penguins have conquered their environment by taking to the sea. They swim well enough to catch all the fish they need. In fact, they can consume enough fish to last them through their breeding season, during which the males will not eat for 100 days. When penguins leave the land, an almost magical transformation takes place. The penguin turns from a flightless bird into a formidable swimming machine speeding through the water at 20 miles an hour. The waterproof feathers lie flat on the streamlined body. The webbed feet become rudders, and the wings turn into powerful flippers. Unlike a bird in flight, the penguin is supported by the water and doesn't need vertical lift. The penguin can angle its wings on each stroke to maximize the forward thrust. It surges through the water like our greatest champion swimmers, only better. On water, as on land, animals easily outclass any human athlete. But so what if we come in second place to a penguin? We're still masters of the universe, aren't we? For us, gymnasts are the perfect embodiment of human precision and agility. So it's a little humbling to recognize how much more graceful animal athletes can be. Many mountain goats spend all but the coldest months of the year high above the snow line, living their lives on the balance beam. Their feet are adapted to handle the rock under all possible conditions. A goat can spread out the sides of the hoof to grasp a rocky outcrop or distribute the animal's weight on soft snow. It can squeeze the two sides of the hoof together to make a single tough point fit into cracks. When a goat is going downhill, the tiny dew claw behind the foot digs in and acts as a brake. Another sort of mountain climber can literally walk up walls. How does the gecko, which is a kind of lizard, defy gravity? Each of the gecko's toes has a brush-like pad made up of almost unimaginably fine bristles, a fraction of a millimeter across. These minute bristles, arranged in convoluted ridges, are the key to the gecko's sticking power. The atoms on their surfaces press so closely onto the wall that they become attracted to the atoms on its surface. For a fraction of a second, wall and foot literally bond together. They stick so firmly that the gecko can even run upside down. We humans can swing by our limbs, but it isn't easy or comfortable. Some of our closest animal relatives do it much better. The orangutan, or old man of the woods, spends most of its time high in the canopy swinging elegantly through the trees. The orangutan can swing below branches, but it usually prefers the lazier method of pulling flexible trunks and branches close and using their natural spring to propel it to the next tree. The orangutan has elongated arms and fingers for greater reach and specially adapted wrists. Even the most flexible human wrist can rotate only about 15 degrees, but the orangutan's wrist allows its hand to swivel 90 degrees. So the orangutan can keep its grip on a branch but still manage to move with gymnastic agility. Orangutans aren't the only gymnasts in the jungle. The red howler monkey lives 150 feet up in the canopy of the New World rainforest. One false move could be fatal, but the howler swings to the treetops with the greatest of ease. Howler monkeys get their name because they make an astonishing noise, a bit like a cruise missile in the treetops. Instead of rocket power, though, the howler gets around with the help of long, grasping fingers, essential for gripping branches and vines. The tail is prehensile, too, which means it can also grip. The gibbon is an ape, not a monkey. It has no tail, but it is also a miraculously gifted gymnast. Its hand is elongated into a hook for a tree-swinging technique called brachiation. The gibbon swings like a pendulum, gathering momentum for takeoff. It speeds up by bending and extending its legs like a child pumping on a swing. Its arms are nearly 3 times as long as its body, allowing the gibbon to make giant leaps around the top of the forest. We humans may be the dominant species on the planet, but we are generalists. We cannot possibly compete with animals that depend on specialized physical abilities for their daily survival. However hard we train, however far we push ourselves, animals will always outclass us. In speed, strength, endurance, or agility, the natural-born winners will always come from the animal world. We humans become great athletes for mere glory or for the excitement of the competition. But in the wild, being quicker, stronger, more bold is the difference between eating or being eaten. For an animal athlete, the only prize that matters is life itself.